Unfortunately, society is facing an enormously devastating problem. We have a global epidemic that is not being addressed with sufficient attention or resources. I'm not talking about world hunger, poverty, or drug and substance abuse. Instead, the issue is suicide. With increased use and commonality of the internet and social media, we've seen a corresponding rise in suicide. My generation is the first to grow up with so much technology use and social media, and it might be too soon to know the long-term impacts. It's important to know if something we spend so much time with can actually increase suicide. I'll explain the background of suicide and how it's scientifically classified, and I'll look at links between suicide and depression. Additionally, I will point out treatment methods for anyone struggling with depression or suicidal thoughts. However, the bulk of my research will be focused on attempting to understand the rise of suicide in young adults and trying to find a connection to social media and technology use. So the goal is simple. I would like to understand why suicide rates are rising among young teenagers and if the increase has something to do with social media. Sadly, I have heard stories of classmates and friends who have either contemplated suicide or attempted it, and because of the issues I will discuss today. This issue affects my peers, me, and other students around the globe who fall under this category of young adults. It is due to this that I chose to expand my knowledge of this issue in hopes that I could learn as much information as possible to help someone. Before I delve into the heart of my research, I would like to give some background information about suicide and how it's classified. Suicide is simply the deliberate act of taking one's own life. Suicide itself is not classified as a mental disorder, but is very closely linked to mental disorders such as schizophrenia, depression, and substance abuse. Although having suicidal thoughts doesn't mean you're depressed, and being depressed doesn't mean you're suicidal, Leonard Holmes from Very Well Mind says that depression and suicide are linked, with an estimate that up to 60% of people who commit suicide have major depression. Frank Bruno, who wrote the Family Mental Health Encyclopedia, confirmed that chronic depression has been shown to play a role in suicide. It is important to connect these two because the issues often overlap. The causes of depression and suicide in many cases are similar to one another. Depression is a mental disorder, and people with mental disorders like schizophrenia and depression and mood disorders are at a higher risk of suicide. These two things often have similar causes and are connected through the treatment options as well. I will cover treatment for depression and suicidal thoughts in more depth later on, but as Dr. Randall Solomon, the amazing psychiatrist that I had the pleasure of interviewing, pointed out, live interaction can really help a person who is in crisis mode deal with their issues. Dr. Solomon practiced psychiatry for over 20 years and has worked with several patients with severe mental disorders. He's worked in the prison system, the county mental health systems, and has also worked with people struggling with addiction. Dr. Solomon emphasized how crucial live interaction and discussion can be because people who are at severe risk for suicide feel isolated. This live interaction de-isolates them and gives them an ally.